How's it going, everybody? It is, what does that say? 1 degree Celsius or 33, 34 degrees Fahrenheit in here. Woo! She cold. Now, let's do some porting, friends. I want to get some of these lingering projects finished. I mentioned it in the last video. Having a baby, you slow down at life's extras, and you get really focused on having the baby and bringing the baby in, and I'm loving every second of it. But as spring arrives, friends, I really want to get some of these projects out of the way and start some new endeavors on the channel, like 372s. I got that 200T up there that I want to work on. There's one more saw I'm going to pull out. I won't mention that until I do it. But let's get this 288 more or less roughed in, prepped for my buddy Caleb. And I'll show you guys shot for shot what I do. Remember, the timing numbers on this saw are, right now, 100, 120 on the transfers. Exhaust is 100 after top dead center. The transfers open 20 degrees after, so I have 20 degrees of blowdown. 120 on the transfers. My intake is 150. So what does that mean, friends? Well, I don't have to do much work to this thing at all. I would like longer blowdown in this saw, but I talked to Caleb. I know what kind of saw he likes, and I don't want to do a bunch of machine work to this saw. I don't want to raise compression any more than it's already going to be. These 288s make good compression, so he lives in Texas. I don't want this thing to get too hot. He's going to run this thing all day when he's running it, so like 4 hours of runtime per day, 5 days a week. So I need this thing to be mild yet warm, if that makes sense, friends. I want this thing to run, but I don't want to wring its neck. So realistically, the timing numbers I wanted 100 on the exhaust roof. I'm already there. 120 on the transfers. I'm fine with that. 20 degrees of blowdown is 3 degrees more than stock. And I want 152, 154 on my intake on this thing. Because the transfers are so high, they don't close for a super long time. I want to build as much vacuum on the bottom end before I open the intake. So it's a balance, friends. The more you port saws, the more you're going to decide what you like. This is just what I like and what people that run my saws like. You decide what you like. I can't tell you what you're going to like in a saw. All I can do is show you what I do. Remember, you'll never see me bashing other builders on this channel. I just don't do that. There's a lot of gifted builders out there and a lot of people that run their saws. Who am I to say anything about it? And if you're a newer builder, a younger builder, hook up with somebody that runs saws full time and build saws for them. You will learn more than building saws and running them yourself, or building saws and giving them to your buddies that cut firewood. You'll see if your builds actually last. So I feel blessed to be hooked up with several professional cutters and I can get feedback. So anyhow, I'm going to lay this out. I'll bring you guys in. I'll show you what I'm doing. What am I going to do this? I'm going to lower the intake floor just a hair. Somebody was mentioning I should lung the intake. A lot of these Husqvarnas, especially with this intake, I don't really like lunging the intake. I find they get kind of lazy for me. Other people may have had good results with that. And also, there's this big bump here and it goes all the way in. I don't really want to cut that bump out to lung it, because I will grind a hole in there, and guess what? You can get an intake leak from that. Ask me how I know. I've done it before. So I'm going to go in and do my moves to this. I'm going to widen the exhaust port a hair. I'm going to reshape and widen the intake. I'm going to lower it just slightly. I am probably going to do some upper transfer work to this, and then we'll be done. I'm going to lay this out and show you guys kind of what I want to do. Okay, here's our cylinder. Now, I just made myself a couple of black lines just for reference. I'm not quite going to go that far. Just going to widen this and shape it a hair. Okay, there's our exhaust side. These transfers, I think I'm going to round the tips of them and just point them a little bit further up. Okay, I like the way they're sloped. They're a decent shape. I'm just going to round them a little bit. Now, see that big bump in the intake right here? Okay, right there. Turn the light on. Hey, that helps. Boom. Look at that. I'm a YouTuber. I'll figure this camera thing out, friends. This big bump, the hole goes to about here, okay? I gotta be real careful not to grind through. All I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna round this slightly here and here. Now remember, friends, your piston rides here and here, okay? Now I didn't widen those transfers any wider than the piston rides, so I changed nothing, okay? Wide transfers are not in themselves going to make piston wear, but a wider intake, less bearing surface here and here. So keep that in mind when you start really hogging out ports. Concentrate on flow, not on the size of the port, is what I do. I want velocity. A giant intake will flow slower air generally. So, okay. Notice though, I want to round this a little bit. I want to push the air kind of into here. See that big slope I created? Okay, I widen these from about here to here and here to here, okay? Notice that big slope I created. My camera's not cooperating. Maybe it's cold. Okay, rough, super rough. Notice it's textured here and here. Trying to bend that air around, okay? So I'm going to go in and do my exhaust port. Okay, I'll widen it a bit and then I'll show you guys one side. There's the tooling I use, carbide burr. It's nice and flat. I like the flat burr for doing the exhaust ports because I get my shape. I also use these quite a bit, like a lot. Okay, these egg-shaped ones for getting into the tight spots. Okay, friends, you see that? Just roughed in. Notice I widened it just slightly. Okay. Now I'll go in there with something less aggressive after and polish that up. Okay. Just want a little more exhaust flow. Now, widening an exhaust port has a similar effect to raising it. So if you do both, you might have a saw that really, really pulls RPM. But okay, I just widened that maybe 1/8 of an inch, if that. Not much. Okay. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so there it is roughed in. I'm going to shape it a little bit more. Okay, so you guys can see I got it about the same width. Now, what I'm going to do is, it's a little bit wider here. I'm going to blend this back in so it's a straight shot, okay? Same with this. But other than that, friends, I'm not going to raise this exhaust port, okay? And I will have to go in here and chamfer it just a hair right around the edges, so... Okay, so there's the exhaust port roughed in. Now I did that whole thing with this. Okay, you can see I got some carbon on there. That's fine. Now I'm going to go in with a sanding drum and I'll start shaping and polishing the exhaust port. Then we'll do the intake side. Okay, I'll show you the exhaust port when it's done. Okay, here it is, just roughed in, 150 grit. Just like to blend it, and I'll just keep increasing my grits till it's shiny. That's how I do my exhaust ports. Here's the cylinder shined up. Notice there's still a little bit of plating on the exhaust roof. I left that for a reason, to show you guys I did not move this exhaust up at all. Same thing, there's a little bit left on the bottom. I polish this to about 1000 grit, maybe a little bit shinier. You can see how shiny it is. These cameras pick up everything. Okay, I polish these. I don't want carbon to stick to it. This saw is going to eat a lot of fuel. Okay, so there's our finished exhaust port. Now I'm going to do the intake. Again, this intake, I want to widen it just a little bit, shape it, round it. I'm going to clean this up a little bit and just taper this out just a hair. Okay, I'm also going to lower it a little bit. A little bit will be enough to get me my intake timing I want, I bet. Because I'm at 150, I want 152, 154. Okay, so 154 is 2 degrees lower, 152 is 1 degree lower. 1 degree in this saw is, I don't even know, friends, I'd have to measure it, 15th thou maybe. So, not much. And then, I'm just going to shape these transfers a little bit, okay? I'm going to do the intake and the transfers, and I'll show you guys, okay? Get a good look at the transfers and the intake. And again, here it is on the business end. Okay, I'm not going to touch the roof. I'm just going to do some shaping to the sides and the bottom. Okay, here's my widened and reshaped intake. Out of the box, this side's a little bit deeper than this side. Okay, notice I rounded down where that screw goes in and shaped these a little bit wider, leaving more than enough bearing surface for my piston. Okay, didn't widen it much. Now, if you really want to get air flowing, think about which side will flow better. Look down in there. Think about the shape of your intake and which side will flow better. And maybe, if you're feeling like experimenting, you could open your transfers different. You could flow them different based on what you think the air is going to do. These are the things I think about. Okay, I'm going to maybe shape this out. But again, friends, this one's a little straighter in. This one has this bolt hole here. Okay, you got to be careful because you will grind through. I've done it many times. Okay, and I don't want to ruin this nice OEM cylinder. Now I'll raise if it's upside down. I'll lower the exhaust or the intake about this far, okay? You guys see that? Usually what I'll do is, because I'm not going far on this, I could literally just take my marker and go. Okay, you guys get what I'm saying here, right here. I'll literally just run it along the edge. Okay, and that'll just give me something to work with. That way I don't go too far. Okay, notice I didn't touch the roof at all. In fact, I'm probably not going to grind much more than that. I may blend this a little bit out, but it's all about the shape, not the size. Okay? In my opinion, friends. And again, this is just how I do it. Okay, I want to rough up the bottom and lower it. And here's the finished intake. Not a lot of grinding in there, eh? Weird. Guys, when you start boarding, you're going to want to just hog things out and grind. And I remember I was like that. Less can be more. Okay, I'll tell you guys what I did. I'm going to show you. I promised you guys shot for shot on this. What I did. Let's start with this. I flattened this out a little bit just to give myself a little more room for that air to go in. Again, not too much because we want this to not crack. It will crack if you get it too thin or you'll grind a hole through it. Again, shape this in here. Float it straight in. Notice there's no lip there in the corner. Evened out the top in a few little spots here and there, but not much to the top. This corner. Same thing, I ground that nub down here as much as I could. I actually measured with my screwdriver to figure out how far in I could go. Okay? To know where the dead end is. You don't want to grind through here because, look, that's open on this side. You guys see that? Okay, you'll get an air leak there. Okay, so I flattened this out and then lowered my floor. Notice that goes like this. Okay, and here's a shot of it from the inside. And again, notice that is an odd shaped intake. That's the game with these. There's not much you can do with them. Well, there's lots you can do. I just did it. But again, I'd love to flatten this out more, but it's getting thin there. I don't want any leaks. So this side is stifled by this being here. This side is stifled because it's a little bit smaller. But believe it or not, I bet this side will flow better than this side because it's tapered there. Okay, and again, there's my transfers. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do is just notice there's no more black marker there. It's pretty symmetrical. I'll go in there and clean this up a little bit when I chamfer it. Yeah, and friends, it's just practice. If you've been grinding for how many years now, I've gotten better and better at it. Figure out a way that's comfy to hold your tooling. Okay, and some people hold their tooling like this. Actually, most people do, I notice. Okay, brace your finger and you can really get in there. I hold it like this. I don't know why I do it that way. I always have. This is not the most stable way to do it. I think I do that, friends, just because I've been doing this for so many years. I probably have decently strong hands at this point. I got big mitts too, but if you guys could see, that's how I do it. I'll usually stick my pinky in the fin and I just go in there and same thing. This feels weird to me, but I see why guys do this. It's a way more stable platform. And it's just your build, friends. If you got smaller hands than that, there's no shame in it. Just you might have to, you know. And like I said, this is a way more stable way than I do. So anyhow, check out the transfers again. I'm just going to shape them a little bit. I'll run water through them out of the top later and see how they flow and make adjustments as needs be. We're almost done. You guys can see you don't have to do a ton of grinding. I guarantee this will be a nice, strong running saw and it'll pull a long bar and it'll last for years. Here is our roughed-in cylinder. I have a little bit of finish work to do. Okay, let's start at the intake. I widened it a hair. Again, I want to keep this bearing surface fairly wide because this is a work saw. If not, if you make that too narrow, you're going to wear your piston horribly right here, right there, and right here, and it'll start to slap prematurely. Okay, so we widened the intake. Here's the business end. I want to show you guys everything I do. It's not just about grinding, it's about the shape. Okay, in my opinion, and again, friends, this is just my opinion. If you do it different and it works, who am I to say anything? I flatten this out a little bit just to give myself a little more space for the air to flow. Same thing on this side. Flattened it out. Okay, these intakes are not the best, but you work with what the designers gave you and try and make it better. Okay, rough all the way down. Notice I didn't touch the top at all. Don't see any need on this saw. And there she be. Rounded it. I like round. In my line of work, in air movement, round will outflow square every time. Okay, rounded it. Try to get that air moving around the crankshaft and into these lower transfers. Lower transfers, I may do a little finishing just because I like it to look neat, but I mean, the piston never touches here or here, so I mean, it doesn't really, if you guys are grinding this, it doesn't have to be a straight line. I like my stuff to look nice though, but okay. I widened these super wide. These are about from here to here, stock. I literally ground all this out and all this. This is all me shaping. Notice I slope it down and in, down and in. This right here, I widened it this way and this way, okay? I want less restriction. It's still tapered, okay? We got a nice taper all the way into the bottom, okay? I want it to taper, but I want less restriction. The restriction I want to be here, not in here. Okay, notice the rough spot at the bottom here. There may be a reason for that. Think about airflow. You can read about airflow. Laminar flow, friends. There's many scientific papers you can read on laminar flow. I've read so many, and laminar flow is a thing. Okay, same thing with the other side. All the way in here. Okay, upper transfers. I did not move them up. Just tapered them a little bit this way in. I want them to hit somewhere around here. Okay, these are already tapered up. If you put a ring in these, they slope up. They open here to here. Okay, there's about a degree difference from here to here. You guys can see the slope. Okay, so all I did is reshape them a little bit. And my exhaust port, and again, that's a little bit of plating left. I did not remove it because I want to show you guys. I did not raise the exhaust roof in this saw. Okay, this saw is going to be close to stock numbers with massive airflow increases. I bet you this thing will run. Okay, again, no machine work, stock squish band and combustion chamber. Look, you can still see where the gasket was. Okay, guys, you don't have to do machine work. I don't do a ton of it anymore. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. The last build, I did tons of machine work. This build, I'm not doing it, so. Okay, friends, and again, finish it off. I will lighten this piston further and open these windows up here and here just a little bit. Get rid of all the casting marks. Same thing we did with this piston. And just to show you guys how drastic some of my porting is, it's not about hogging things out, it's about what you hog out. Here's a highway cylinder, and again, this is how 288s are. Look how narrow that is, and look, friends, this is the piston that would go in the cylinder. Look at the difference in width from the windows to the transfers. It's incredible. Okay, again, so stock transfers, my transfers. Okay, that's literally, takes a couple hours to grind these, but I think it's well worth it. Again, stock intake, my intake. So you guys can see, again, way more bearing surface here, but those windows go to about here. So by grinding them wider, you're really not changing the bearing surface because there isn't much. Again, stock combustion chamber and an OEM cylinder. The highway, the OEM's a little bit smaller. I think this is a little flat for me, but that's just me, friends. And exhaust port. This highway exhaust port's actually pretty large. See if we can get this on video. Mine's wider, but this is a pretty big exhaust port on this saw stock. So, again, friends, look at the difference. Okay, by using this cylinder and piston, I saved myself a ton of work, but still got the outcome I want. That's the fun of mixing and matching parts. Okay, let's wrap this one up. Turn my porting light off. Friends, I literally lay that down and hold my cylinder here and literally shine it right into my cylinder so I can see. I always lay paper towels down. That catches most of the porting mess, and then I can just do this. I fold it up and put it into the garbage can. Okay, I'll just roll this out of the way for now. I'll clean the whole bench off. Again, friends, mixing and matching parts is a great idea because sometimes, again, the little bit of differences in the Meteor piston to the highway gave me better timing numbers for what I wanted. And again, friends, I can't tell you what your timing numbers are going to be for two reasons. One, you might like a different saw than me. Two, you might grind different. And three, I don't know where you're starting. When people are asking me for timing numbers, I always want to know where they're starting and what they're prepared to do to get their timing numbers. Me, I don't like doing a ton of machine work because I don't think it's necessary. And I find the more you machine and drop the cylinder, the more you create other problems like over intaking your saw. You know, you're grinding and grinding and grinding the exhaust port. You could free port, meaning your piston skirt travels beyond the floor of your exhaust port. You can't do that on this saw because there's tons of overlap, but some saws are very close to free porting out of the blocks. And then again, friends, I personally don't like a giant intake. You know, if you cut 40 thou, 50 thou off the base of this and you lower it more, you might have more intake than you want. So, but again, to each their own. A lot of guys run way higher intake numbers than me. There's a million ways to build a saw. This is just how I do it. I think this is going to be a good, strong, reliable saw. It's going to pull good RPM in the cut. And because we didn't raise our exhaust roof, we widened it a bit. I think this is going to have good RPM, but good torque because we didn't drop the compression much. Now remember, friends, these big saws, in my opinion, the bigger the saw, the higher the exhaust roof you can go. The smaller the saw, you want to keep that exhaust roof low because you don't have a lot of torque in a small saw. So if you have a little saw and your exhaust roof gets too high, it'll scream and be great for, limbing. And again, some little saws, that's what somebody wants. They want something that's lightning fast for cutting small trees. But if you want a little saw that packs a punch, you want to keep that exhaust port low, in my opinion, because you can't end up with a little saw that has no pull. Anyhow, friends, I got this roughed in. I'll clean it, chamfer it. I got quite a bit of finish work to do here. Got a chamfer everything. I can literally feel the sharp edge on my intake. My exhaust is sharp on the corners. Not too bad because I went in there and polished it. But again, I can really feel it on my intake. If you can feel it on your finger, that'll cut your piston up. I don't really have to chamfer the transfers that I cut. I'll go around them with some sandpaper and make them nice. Wash this thing. And in the next video, friends, I got to do a little bit of upkeep on this saw. Not because it's old, because it's some of the parts I don't really like. I'm going to replace the fuel line. Then we can start putting this saw together, friends. And then I want to build another pipe. And I think I'm going to do, friends, I think what I'm going to do is build another pipe like this. Like on Hogan's 266. I still got to paint this. I'm waiting for a warm day. It's -40 out right now. The Woodsman wood stove is dying off and my feet are getting cold. So I'm going to call her a night. Thanks for coming back again and again. Some of you guys have been here for 3 years. Thank you all for supporting this channel. If you have any questions, please post them below, and my email is in my About page. You guys feel free to email me anytime. I'm in there every day. I don't get to every email. If you don't hear from me in a week, say, email me again. Thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later.